Shalom, giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles, bishops, elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to you, hopefully elect. I'm your brother Yahweh call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And, I saw this video, which I'm going to say this is clearly, obviously AI. And through the Spirit, I just wanted to do this video going into the mark of Cain. Because dealing with what we know as leprosy, or pretty much, again, that mark of Cain, when you hear the account of Genesis 4, in Genesis 4 and verse, I'm going to start at verse 10, verse 9, after Cain murdering Abel. Genesis 4 and 9. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tellest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Because for one, someone who's constantly on the run, Jake, watching a lot of those type of documentaries growing up, the life of a serial, whatever the case may be, the life of a serial criminal, someone who constantly makes a living off of committing crimes and things of that nature. Watch this type of shows and documentaries and things of that nature, of someone who's always on a run. One thing in common that they've always mentioned was how they know at some point that their crimes are gonna catch up to them. Because someone living a life of crime, again, because like it mentioned in verse 12, being a fugitive and a vagabond, constantly on the run, always having to look over your shoulder. It's just no way to live. That's one thing these common criminals, when they live a life of live a life on the run, they always make that point. There's no way to live. Having to sleep with one eye open, right? So that's why Cain told the Lord here in verse 13 again, and Cain said unto the Lord, my punishment is greater than I can bear. It says, behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that everyone that findeth me shall slay me. So going into this curse of Cain, all right. So yeah, going into this curse of Cain, which is why, again, through the Spirit, I wanted to play this small quick clip. Again, it's AI. And the original source that I got this video from, even in the comments, people were making the point, because you see how these chimps coming together and trying to consolidate with this this one that sticks out from the bunch. Well, in the animal kingdom, that's not so, you know, because in the animal kingdom, going into this mark of Cain, or pretty much a way to identify basically who that man of sin is, which obviously Esau, Edom today. All right. The only nation of people who don't have any type of pigmentation in their skin. They don't have any type of hue in their skin, or whatever the case may be. Which again, that going back to that mark of Cain, this was the way to identify that man of sin. On the crimes that he's committed. As the scriptures talk about, his sins have reached unto the heavens. Right? And because of, I'm going to go to this in Obadiah 1 and 2. Behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? So again, another way to identify. That's why we have to have the spirit of Yahweh Shema Shai to deal with us, to show us in the scriptures, what's what. All right. Because people all the time, we hear it all the time. People boast in reading the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, but that doesn't mean that you have any type of understanding of what the scriptures are talking about. Because as the scriptures say, line upon line, here a little and there a little. And as it says in Revelation, the Lord has to sup with you. Again, the Lord has to give you the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, to be able to interpret what we're reading. All right. Because the Bible is one big code book. All right. And only through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai, through the prophets of Yahweh Shema Shai, are these codes deciphered. So this is just another indicator of dealing with Esau, the so-called white man, the man of sin, and who he is. All right, going back to that mark of Cain. All right, but I wanted to read that because, like I said, the pride of thine heart had deceived thee. Not only has Esau committed all these atrocious crimes, committed all these wicked acts and abominations and things of that nature, he's put it out there, As I said, the pride of his heart deceived him. You see, he was proud enough to put it out there, and now we've been in the time where it's been coming back to bite him in the ass. All right, this is why you have things such as critical race theory. Esau basically is trying to erase his history, and it's even more so to a point where he's done so much wickedness and put it out there. At this point, he's been called out so much for it. At this point, he's just owning up to it and just saying, forget about it. Yeah, we did it, but hey, what are you going to do about it? He's basically saying, forget about it. Don't worry about it. So all this has come back to bite him in the ass. But just the point of this clip, because as I was saying, making a point, in the animal kingdom, you see certain animals with that leprosy or that mark of Cain. Again, contrary to this clip, this is not how it would go in the animal kingdom. Typically animals, whether it be alligators or whatever type of animal, in the animal kingdom with this mark of leprosy, man, they would be outcasted. They would be outcasted. In some case, they would be killed amongst their own species. Because an animal with the mark of Cain, can mean a number of things. One, be considered the weakling of the group, more sickly. Basically, you'd be dead weight, man. The weak link in the chain. So oftentimes, animals with this mark of Cain, they would be casted out. Like I said, in some cases, they'd be killed. Not only that, man, hey, you're an easy target for prey. You're an easy target for prey. Easy picking for the prey. So this is one of several reasons why, even in the animal kingdom, shows you dealing with the mark of Cain or leprosy, man. You know, they show you this even in the animal kingdom. Contrary to this clip, again, it's AI. You know, but like I said, man, if this was the real, if this wasn't AI, more than likely, the rest of those chimps, man, they would have either casted this chimp out, man, or put him to death, one of the two, you know. But yeah, going back to the mark of Cain, which would be the way to identify who that man of sin is. All right, that fugitive, that vagabond, constantly on the run from his crimes. The Yahweh Shema Shah has a certain seal about him, a certain protection around about him, ultimately so that he could fulfill prophecy. But even with that being said, once the Lord removes that protection, Esau's ass gonna get dealt with. The scriptures talk about that day of evil. He's being reserved for the day of evil. So Yahweh Basham Shah has a specific purpose for the so-called white man. A specific purpose for Edom, and eventually he's going to be done away with. As you read in the same chapter in Obadiah, he's going to be done away with because there's not going to be a need for him anymore. So, Lord willing, this was edifying. Giving all praises to Yahweh Basham Shah. Shalom to you, hopefully, like.